As a matter of habit, he never shared where he was staying, not with close friends, nor with the people he once worked with. It was part of years of field experience and a survival instinct. That's why no one, not even Noor, knew he was currently staying in the back room of an abandoned guest house in Raqqa, the war-weary city of Syria. The small, narrow room was dimly lit by a weak light bulb. The cracked walls echoed a silence stretched tight like a clothesline. Jack sat at the edge of the bed, phone in hand, eyes full of deep anticipation. He was waiting for a message from Noor, but his mind was filled not just with impatience, but also with suspicion. He glanced at the bag sitting in the corner of the room. It was packed and ready. Gun, magazines, suppressor, first aid supplies, hidden identification documents, all symbols of a life ready to run or fight at any moment. Not long ago, just a few weeks earlier, he was a quiet man arranging bookshelves in a bookstore, brewing coffee, gazing out the shop window. Now, thousands of kilometers away, in a land soaked in dust and blood, he was trying to survive in an equation where even his name posed a threat. You never know what life will bring, he sighed, and you can never escape your past. Just then, the phone vibrated. A message appeared on the screen. K1 shipment, Nada District, D700 Road, 34. Tonight at 2300. Jack paused for a moment, then stood up, pushing aside every trace of fatigue in his mind. Preparations took only minutes. He checked his weapon, attached the suppressor, put on sunglasses and wrapped his face partially with a shemagh. Now from the outside, he looked no different than any local Arab in the area. When he stepped outside, the heat hit his face like a slap. The smell of dust, decay, and burnt plastic traveled through his nostrils down to his lungs. Raqqa still bore the scars of civil war. Collapsed buildings, walls covered in mud, the sharpness leaking from old bomb craters. This city was a ghost, screaming in silence. He went to the city center, bought some food from a corner shop, walked around a bit. He tried to blend in, to appear as just another ordinary man. He had to arrive at the meeting point before the scheduled time. He got into a taxi. He didn't give the exact address. He gave a nearby location. By the time he got out of the taxi, the sky had turned dark blue, and the stars were scattered like dust. Time 22:05. Jack was on the rooftop of an old building, his chosen observation point. He fixed his gaze on the target, an old factory lot about 200 meters ahead. He took out his night vision binoculars from his bag, pressed his eyes against the dark green lenses, and he saw a wide area surrounded by tall metal fences. Inside there were neatly parked trucks, metal containers, and a few scattered crates. But something strange stood out. There was no one around. No guard, no movement, only the faint rattling of the wind hitting the corners of the containers. Jack felt uneasy. This much silence can't be real. A voice in his head told him to stay away from there. But another voice, more familiar, more resolute, whispered that observation wasn't enough, that he wouldn't learn the truth without stepping into that area. He slowly began to descend, blended into the shadows. His steps were silent, his breathing calm. He took his gun in hand, attached the suppressor. He moved between the crumbling buildings. As in every corner of Raqqa, something was missing here too. Sometimes a wall, sometimes a roof, and sometimes a part of the soul. A section of the tall fences had collapsed. Jack slipped through there. He moved forward, crouched. He reached the trucks. He opened the cargo bay of the first truck in front of him. Inside, crates packed full of weapons. Behind that truck, anti-tank weapons, M4A1s, Javelin missiles, each one American-made. The very weapons he had only seen in reports for years, said to have been sent under the table. Now they were right in front of him. Jack's fingers trembled. A shipment this exposed, this unguarded. Too easy. At that very moment, a voice. "Mr. Ryler, seems you live up to your reputation." The voice was deep, mocking, the kind that belonged to men who had no need to hide their power. Jack slowly turned. He immediately recognized the man approaching with heavy steps from the shadows. Abu Hasan. He had only seen him before, in a photo laid out during a CIA briefing. Now, he was standing right there, real. 6 men stood beside him. 2 held Kalashnikovs. The others scanned Jack's every move with their eyes. Before Jack could reach for his weapon, three men lunged at him. As he hit the concrete floor, his knee struck hard and pain shot through his back. When he looked up, Abu Hasan was smiling. "We knew you'd come. Who else but an old wolf like you would care about so much detail?" His arms were pulled back. Plastic zip ties were fastened so tightly around his wrists that they burned. His dust-covered shirt clung to him as Jack whispered something deep inside. "They lured me here. They set all this up." Minutes later, they dragged Jack through a door at the back of the factory into a crumbling building. The door opened with a heavy creak. Inside it was dark and smelled of mold, only a faint glow from an old projector lamp on the wall. When they threw him in, still bound, he landed face down. His knee hit a nail, but he made no sound. Jack didn't cry out in pain. He was used to it. As he stood up, his breathing grew heavier. He scanned the room. No windows, only a small glass opening near the corner of the wall above. It was covered with a broken, crooked metal sheet. Voices were now coming from outside. Truck engines had started. Voices, commands, movement. And then that voice. "Yes, we've got him. Caught him at the K1 site. What do we do with Jack now?" It was Abu Hasan speaking, reporting to someone on the phone, and then came the most dangerous phrase for Jack: deniable asset. Jack knelt down and ran his hands along the bottom of the wall. He was searching for something: metal, glass, wire, anything. With his fingers, he found a rusty screw lodged in the cracked concrete. With bare hands, he began rubbing the plastic tie against it. Sweat poured down his back, but he kept cutting. He held his breath. The tie loosened slightly once more, and click, the plastic tie snapped off. He raised his head. Under the small window, he tipped over a barrel. Climbed on top, he slowly moved the sheet aside, trying not to make a sound. Using the noise of the voices outside to mask his escape, he gripped the window frame. With one pull, he hoisted himself up. When he landed on the other side, his knees sank into the mud again. But this time, he didn't stop. A voice rang out. "He's escaping!" Gunshots pierced the air. Jack ducked low and started running with diagonal steps. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to get away. He kept running through the darkness, moving away from the road. He needed to change direction quickly. He jumped into a trench, held his breath. His pursuers kept running down the road. Car headlights swept the dark. Jack darted in the opposite direction. His ankle and the marks on his wrists ached, but he kept running. After a while, he reached the asphalt road. It was deserted. No lights, no people. Just when he was about to lose hope, a pair of headlights appeared on the horizon, an old pickup truck, moving slowly. Jack hid in the shadows. When the truck approached, he silently ran behind it. With one move, he climbed onto the bed, buried himself in the hay, and took a deep breath. He returned to the guest house room. His clothes were torn. His body ached. But the questions in his mind were louder than the pain. Who led me there? Tariq? Noor? But why? He took a shower, washed away the blood and dust, changed his clothes, and packed his bag. He had to be ready to escape at any moment. Alone in the room, his instincts stayed sharp. He placed an empty glass on the doorknob, a small old spy reflex. And a few minutes later, the glass fell to the floor. Jack grabbed his bag, climbed out through the back window using an old metal pipe like a fire escape. He landed in the shadows of the street, took one last look at the room. There were two shadows in the cracked glass. Jack could see them, but they couldn't see him. As he moved down the dark street, one sentence echoed in his mind. I won't be the one running anymore. He pulled out his phone. 3:17. A new notification on the screen. A photo. Jack Ryler, face to face with Abu Hasan in the K1 zone. Jack's eyes widened. He tapped the screen. Only one person knew I'd be there at that time. The phone. The one given to him by the CIA. At that moment, everything became clear. It was a trap, and Jack had been a pawn in their game. But he wouldn't be the hunted anymore. That night, in the darkness, he made a vow. The ones who sent me there, will they ever see me again?